Yes, welcome to Satsang and meditation. Welcome everyone around the globe that are joining us tonight. It's a special night because tonight at midnight our lockdown is over, at least partially over, and we can move a little bit more. And in honor to a new opening, a new chapter, we thought we're going to have a little break with the Tao Te Ching, or we maybe include the Tao Te Ching in a different way and move towards a deeper understanding of Tantra. I don't know if that would be interesting for you guys. There's a reason for that, because there's different events coming up in October and in November that concern Tantra. There's some online courses in Korea and another one in Sweden, organized basically for the whole of Europe or even for the whole of the world, where we want to go deeper into the mystery of Tantra. So I thought it could be nice to begin to bring our attention to that, because it's very, very near to my heart. Tantra, the word Tantra, I heard many meanings. It is actually, one meaning is the path. It's a way. It's not a belief. It's not a practice. It's not a concept. It is a name for the unveiling of our deepest nature. Just before, I was asked by a friend, my body has certain responses to certain ideas, and what is the truth? Is that the truth? And my immediate response is, whatever the body says may be on a certain level a good hint if we have learned to trust the body. But what is really true is that which is aware of the body and which is aware of our attitude towards or against the body. And unless we rest as awareness, we will find everything changes. The body changes, our health changes, our feeling in the body changes, our age changes, everything changes. What doesn't change? What can take us to liberation even while we are in the body? I find that since many, many years one of the most important questions. No? And that, of course, from the body-mind perspective, has given rise to many wisdom systems. Like the Tao Te Ching is ancient wisdom which is totally modern, because it points to the eternal truth. And truth never becomes obsolete. The aspect how truth manifests itself in our life keeps changing and keeps reappearing in many different ways. So why Tantra? It's in a way very selfish, because it's such a royal way to unfold the deepest core of our being. And that unfolding, if you're in a couple, is possible through the male and female polarity on its deepest level. And then the outer female or the outer male is basically a wonderful mirror for something that is ultimately inside. Tantra very often in many minds is directly connected with the idea of lovemaking, of sex. But there's tantric teachings and practices in Tibet that have nothing to do with sex, and still it's called Tantra. Why? Because whatever the tool or the means is not the end. The end is the end of you, the end of me, the end of identification, the end of attachment, the end of looking outward to find the right solution or the right path, the end of becoming, many ends, many endings. And eventually when everything that we recognize that we are not is ending, then what is left? Stay with that a little bit. In many satsangs, I talked about the male path and the female path, and I called the male path the path of meditation, of presence, of awareness. It's also arbitrary because awareness is beyond male and female. But the practice of awareness, the practice is more male, because why male? It's kind of a negative way. It denies everything that we can be aware of. For example, if I'm aware of my thoughts, I cannot be my thoughts. Can you follow that? That's very easy. No? Now, the friend who asked me before, what is the truth? That was a thought. If we could watch the thought, we recognize I'm not the thought. I'm aware of the thought. I'm that which is aware. So I'm not my beliefs. No matter if you have positive beliefs, negative beliefs, good beliefs, bad beliefs, you are not your beliefs. I'm not my beliefs. That's very powerful, because in day-to-day life we identify ourselves all the time with concepts, with attitudes, with interpretations, with beliefs. And we create a structure for our life out of these arbitrary thoughts, or out of these thoughts that we have been told, we have been conditioned with through society, through culture, through parents. Nothing is wrong with that. But when we have been searching for the freedom, at least I was always searching for freedom, and of course the first search was through outer freedom, through traveling, through exploring the world, through going on adventure. And now, for the last weeks we were in complete lockdown. We were actually not allowed to visit friends, not to go anywhere. Can I still be free, even when the outer freedom is somehow taken away? So, I'm just aware, you have to excuse me for a moment, I have to check whether I'm in the right internet, whether you can actually hear me and see me. They can? Yeah?
Hello, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
No,
good. So, we were talking about the male path, and of course that's also only an interpretation of the mind, because as we are in the body, we are functioning as a personality with a body-mind. And most of the time we forget that we are actually that which is aware of the body-mind. But that which is aware of the body-mind is not a substance, it's not an object, it's not a thing, it's not a belief, it's not anything we can think of. This is why it gets kind of tricky. That's why the male path is more a negative path. I'm not my thoughts, not my beliefs, not my body. Why can I say that? Because I can be aware of the body. I can be aware of what my body speaks to me. And in the moment there's a big controversy for many, many people whether your body speaks for the vaccine or against the vaccine. And that is, of course, very much tinted by opinions, by medical information, by misinformation, by many, many things. So we're not going to go into the COVID story. It's a complicated story, but it can help us to see how we are governed by beliefs, by ideas, by ideals, by shoulds. No? See, and suddenly there is light. That's the nature of awareness. And we never know when it starts, when it shows itself. Suddenly, it's there. And when there's glimpses of presence and awareness, there's joy. So the via negativa, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this, it's a very, very helpful approach that we don't get stuck in any kind of identification. And then, of course, comes the question, well, who am I if I'm nothing of that which I'm aware of? That's the magic, mysterious question. It has never been solved by any mind. And yet, everybody will be able to say, I am. And now if you want to make it more complicated and more challenging, we can include the feminine path, the female path. And the female path is the path of love. Again, here the mind separates between awareness and love, where in reality it is one. But since we all have a mind, we like to play with it. So what is the path of love? The path of the heart. What does the heart say? What does love say? Love says, I am my body. I am my thoughts. I am my emotions. I am my beliefs. I'm all my human experiences. I'm everything that I can experience. And not just that. I'm also you. I'm your joys, your pains, your thoughts, your misunderstandings, your hurts, your ecstasies. I'm everything that any human being can experience. So here comes perhaps one of the aspects of Tantra. Because we are male, and if you're in a male body, you are basically maybe 50.1% male and 49.9% female. But the female, the inner woman, is hidden inside. So it's not so obvious. And if you're in a female body, you're maybe 50.1% feminine and 49.9% masculine. But the inner man is hidden inside. And there's a very beautiful, if you like, concept of explaining why man and woman are so attracted to each other. Well, we are actually attracted to our inner counterpart. And that is the unfortunate big dilemma for every couple, that the outer woman or the outer man can never be exactly like your inner man or your inner woman. And that's why, at least at the beginning when we start relationships, we feel, yeah, this is very beautiful, but something is missing. Maybe there's somebody else that has these qualities that I feel are missing. So if you have been lucky enough, you would try out, and it was never absolutely 100%. If you are unlucky, you didn't have the chance to try out because you were educated in Catholicism and you have to stay a virgin until you marry, and then you marry the guy or the or the woman and just take your chances. So where does Tantra come in? Tantra comes in when we begin to see that male and female energy, these two polarities, manifest in the outside. That's the outer attraction, but they are a doorway to the inside. When we understand that my attraction to my woman is actually something that is arising in me as an opening, as a feeling that I could call love, or maybe first, attraction, infatuation, falling in love, because we are projecting all the things that our inner woman as a man, kind of, as we feel our inner woman, we project it on the outer woman, and we feel this is the woman or the person or the partner of my dreams. And then eventually the personalities begin to play out. And when we stay with our attention outward, then, the couples that have been together for a longer time, you will know what happens. Unless they both learned meditation, discovered meditation, or discovered the beauty of turning our attention inward with whatever we experience. Now this is very tricky. No? We feel so much attracted to the outer woman that we very quickly forget the inner feeling that the situation with the woman creates, or vice versa. Maybe you feel attracted to a man and you feel so pulled to the other, and our whole attention goes to the other, and eventually many things happen. We become codependent, we suffer, we get afraid that the other may leave. We identify with a person outside. So something, our person, our personality identifies with another personality. And then we, if there's enough love, we adjust and find common ground. And many couples actually find a lot of beauty. But the deepest beauty is found within. And that is often being very much misunderstood. So, for those of you who have been with me for a while, you know that I've been, with Osho for many, many years, and Osho's big attempt, not the only one, but a big attempt was to help us to find the treasure in relationship and to find the treasure of love in experimenting through the different personalities, experimenting through the male and female. But ultimately, the goal is never to have more excitement or to be more lustful or to be more hot. This is what we learn in puberty. We want to mate, we want to make love, we want to have the physical pleasures, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's a beautiful beginning. But when the energy stays then in the first chakra and only moves for pleasure, eventually we need more and more stimulation. We need more and more excitement. And eventually the excitement dies out and many couples don't make love anymore, missing an incredible possibility. One of Osho's book that has been my Bible, I could say, it was the first book that I ever read from Osho, and it's in a way the last book. Everything else, is a wonderful way to point towards the same thing. And this is Osho Tantra, the Supreme Understanding. And my idea for the coming satsangs is actually to explore together that approach of Tantra, and maybe to bridge it, because it's the same truth, just packaged differently, to bridge it with the Tao Te Ching and maybe with other expressions of Tantra from Osho. So my attempt here is, of course, to share as much as possible my own experience and only use Osho's words to point towards the unspeakable. Remember when we started to talk about the Tao Te Ching, the first sentence, the Tao that can be spoken is not the real Tao, is very relevant here. So Tantra, the Supreme Understanding, is actually talks on Tilopa's Song of Mahamudra. Now, what is Mahamudra? We're going to look into that deeper and deeper. Maha means big, means huge. Mudra is actually, you may be familiar with the expression of hand mudras, certain expressions that indicate a certain energy field. And Mahamudra, perhaps roughly translated, is the great union, the great cosmic orgasm with everything. Now, that sounds a little bit much, no? But yes, we are in Byron Bay, so maybe Mahamudra, the great cosmic orgasm, is possible. But don't get too excited, because with the first verse of Tilopa, he destroys that excitement quite quickly. So are we ready for it? Is that interesting for you to move into Tantra? Give me a little sign if you're listening online. Give me a sign like this or like this, and you don't have to be in a relationship. Tantra is beautiful in a relationship, but Tantra is also beautiful by yourself, because you not only make love to your woman, you make love to the universe, you make love to nature, you make love to everything that you experience. No? So the
many thumbs up.
Many thumbs up. Thank you. I will ask you for feedback sometimes. So the first chapter is called The Ultimate Experience. So we are not kind of beating around the bush. We're just going first into the ultimate. Okay? So in his song of Mahamudra, Tilopa, who is an ancient Tibetan master, He's in a way like Lao Tzu, but a tantric master that has recognized his deepest, truest being. And from there he speaks. And you will find, even though we call it Tantra, you will find what he speaks is quite unsexual. It is beyond sex. So here he goes. Mahamudra is beyond all words and symbols. But for you, Naropa, earnest and loyal, must this be said. So, in a way, he begins like the Lao Tzu with the Tao Te Ching. It's beyond all words and symbols, so it cannot be said and cannot be depicted in symbols. But then he's a very compassionate master, and his only disciple is Naropa. And Naropa has been earnest and loyal, and Tilopa felt Naropa is ready for the deepest truth. Now, this was many hundred years ago. Are we all ready for the deepest truth? Give me a sign. Okay, now take a deep breath. And this is just the first sentence points towards something that our mind really doesn't want. Tilopa says, the void needs no reliance. Why does he speak about the void? We're wanting love, we're wanting lovemaking, we want kind of excitement, we want pleasure, we want beauty, we want all the things that personalities want in this lifetime. And Tilopa starts with the void. The void is absolute nothing. And the void doesn't need any reliance, which means you cannot prove it. It doesn't need proving. The void is the void. And why does he speak about the void? Because who we are is more like void, more like no thing than something. So this is already, our heads are cut, finished. No? All concepts gone, all ideas gone, all excitement about Tantra and it's about lovemaking. Forget it, let it drop into the void. Mahamudra rests on naught. So he says this in a different way. The great cosmic orgasm that we were so excited about rests on naught, on nothing. Now, are you still with me? You want to continue this? You're in deep trouble. Void. Mahamudra. And now listen carefully. This is for all of us, especially for the active people, the doers. Without making an effort, but remaining loose and natural, one can break the yoke, thus gaining liberation. Are you hearing that? Without making an effort. Now, how much effort do we make? Every moment. How much effort will we make to create mentally a better moment later that we all strive for and hope for? Without making an effort, but remaining loose and natural, one can break the yoke and thus gaining liberation. So what happens when we make an effort? We have a goal and we are not really present. We have a resistance to that which doesn't work and attachment to that which works. We are actually divided and we are always making an effort according to our first conditioning. I call it the first conditioning. What do we hear? We hear, you're a good boy, if we accidentally do something nice or we smile. And you're a bad boy, if you accidentally cry or pee in your pants or whatever the parents or the authority regards as bad. So the first swear words, I said that in many satsangs, are good and bad. No? And then we put so much energy into trying to be good. This is for the pleasers among us. And if we completely fail, then we put so much energy into being destructive, because at least that gives us attention. No? So without making an effort, without trying to be good, or without fueling, your negativity and your hatred, but remaining loose and natural, one can break the yoke. I don't know if you ever have carried a newborn baby. And you remember when you hold this baby, there is nothing in between. There is just this incredible alive presence that doesn't know concepts yet. And it's totally melting into you without effort, without trying. Unless it's already anxious and doesn't like your smell or doesn't like your way of touch. But otherwise, there is no separation. There's no effort. Why do we feel so attracted to that? Because behind the no effort is the void, and the void that manifests through this body-mind is called love. Do I need to say that again? Love is a flower of nothingness. Peace is a flower of nothingness. Joy is a flower of nothingness. Freedom, liberation is a flower of nothingness. So Tilopa says, remaining loose and natural, one can break the yoke, thus gaining liberation. Now just imagine this when it comes to relationship. When you suddenly see somebody or find somebody that you feel attracted to, and you feel the desire arising to merge and melt. And then your whole mind comes in and looks for the right strategy, whether this person may like you or not. And then you try and present an attractive image, but you don't know whether that image actually works to attract the other or not. No? Yesterday, Melly and I, we were watching a very beautiful documentary, The Dance of the Birds. And it's a movie about the birds of paradise in different tropical countries. And the amount of show they have to create for hours and hours to finally get the woman interested is incredible. I would very much recommend to look at this. It is universal. It's like we men, we are kind of poor copies of these incredible birds that go to lengths. One bird has been building a 4-meter high nest for years, adding to the nest until finally the woman was satisfied. Or the way they can unfold their feathers in different wonderful theatrical performances is unbelievable. And one poor one poor bird is doing push-ups forever with all sorts of different faces that he shows to his woman. And the woman is kind of half or not interested. You know? So, dear man, I mean, I feel a lot of compassion for us. You know? What do we need to do to get her attention? And Tilopa has really a very, very good solution. The void needs no reliance. The first solution is recognize that you are the void, which means consciousness that doesn't have an objective quality. It is empty, void. No? Mahamudra rests on nothing, which means you don't need to do anything. You are already. No? So remaining loose and natural, one can break the yoke and thus gaining liberation. It's a bit tricky. No? I don't know if that translation is right, because gaining liberation creates a hope for the future that if you don't do anything, you will be free. The language gets a little bit tricky because you are already free. The void is freedom. Mahamudra is already freedom. And if we don't do anything, and now it gets really interesting, what happens as we don't do anything as a body-mind, and still we have a body-mind that has a certain personality, and if we meet a partner, if we meet as men, if we meet a woman and we feel attracted, or a woman is attracted to you, and we don't do anything, what happens then? If you don't know, you have to check with my dear friend Steve, who is here tonight. Steve is a great hugger. No? And at first maybe it looks like he's doing hugging. But then when you hold each other for a while, and he's doing it with men and with women, so don't have any false ideas. What happens is there is a meeting of energy that arises out of non-doing, out of being together. No? And that energy that begins to flow is something that most of us don't trust anymore. We think we have to do so many things. I remember when I was just coming into puberty, my beautiful brother is 2 years older, and this guy was always surrounded by girls. And I said, wow, I wanted to be surrounded by girls, but the girls kind of were not interested. At least this is what I felt, or I felt not good enough. So one day, in my despair, I asked him, well, what do you do? How do you attract all these girls? And they all want to kind of have your company, and you are actually quite ugly to them, you push them away, and they feel more attracted. This is very strange. And he laughed, he said, well, anything you do will not work. Just be yourself. That was my first master. Just be natural, just be yourself. Don't try to be anybody. The girls will find out very quickly if you try to be somebody. Your ego comes into play, and then you basically become a showman. And showmans usually are not trusted. So I learned very early, but at the same time I felt too shy and too, maybe not so attractive. So I only became attractive when he left the same school. we went together. Then at least I had kind of my own field of myself. Otherwise I was always comparing with my brother. So the void does not need any reliance. For those of you who want to get enlightened, remember who you are. Remember that which is aware. Mahamudra rests on nothing, on naught. So without making an effort but remaining loose and natural, one can break the yoke, thus gaining liberation. Now this is, what is that? What is he saying? He is giving us an invitation for meditation. Because what is meditation? And we're going to have a beautiful meditation in a moment. Meditation is the art of letting everything be as it is. Many of you have heard me say this many times. The art of letting things be as they are. And when I say things, there are many things. Of course, there are our thoughts. Many of us think our thoughts need to, be quiet for meditation. No. Thoughts are simply happening. Can we let the thoughts happen without interfering, without following, without attaching, without rejecting thoughts? Just letting thoughts be. Then it gets more interesting, especially for the women who are more emotional beings. When there's an emotion, can we allow the emotion to be? If you're sad, can you be sad? If you're angry, can you be angry? If you're loving, can you be loving? Whatever the emotional wave is, can you let it be? Because the moment you let it be, you will find the wave arises from nothingness, from the deep interiority of space, and turns into form. Just like on the ocean. I've been surfing just a few hours ago, and it's so beautiful that the ocean is so wonderfully even, and as the waves come closer to the shore, they just rise out of the ocean. Just like any emotion or any thought just begins to rise out of nothing, out of the vastness of nothingness. And it falls back. If my dear, beautiful, emotional friends would understand this, maybe there is a hurt, maybe you feel pain, maybe you feel anxious, maybe you feel not loved. Can you allow that experience to totally be as it is? And you will find it has a beginning, it has usually a peak, maybe not sharp peak, maybe a round peak, and eventually it goes. Like everything in our human experience comes and goes. Tilopa says, Mahamudra rests on naught without making an effort, but remaining loose and natural. One can break the yoke and gain liberation. Well, being loose and natural is not a breaking. The yoke breaks by itself when the resistance to it is relinquished. Do you notice whenever we suffer, the suffering is actually an physical or emotional experience plus the resistance to it. And that resistance has become an habitual form that we have identified with, which is part of creating our separate personality. We're going to look at this more, how do we create psychological pain? But since we are moving into Tantra, It's like, just imagine for a moment you're meeting another human being. You cannot know anything about this other human being except your own projection. So when you are loose and natural and see that maybe you're looking into a mirror of your own projections, then you can already in that meeting rest as presence, being loose and natural. And then when there's a certain attraction, perhaps first the chemistry, you will find out of nowhere energy begins to flow and becomes an exchange if both are loose and natural. It's not very often, but if you're lucky, it happens. It very often happens when we fall in love with each other, but then we lose it quickly because we get other-oriented, we get other-defined, we get defined by how the other responds. And the beauty of Tantra from the very beginning is turning your attention towards your inner experience and being loose and natural in your inner experience. And you will find so much of old holdings and pains and cravings and desires simply melt away. So Tilopa points us towards this, and I would like to invite us now for a guided meditation where we can perhaps practice. And Tantra doesn't have to be just with a partner of the opposite sex. Tantra is a way of life. It's a way of allowing whatever stimulates our response in the body-mind through our surroundings, through nature, through light, through what we see, through what we hear, through what we feel, what we smell, what we taste, to allow that to be received in who we are. That will be a key word that I will use in the coming satsangs very, very often. To receive whatever is here. To receive, to open up, to be an open vessel that existence can fill with whatever it wants to fill with. Shall we try that? Can you close your eyes? Can you sit comfortably with your spine upright? Actually, I want to, before we move into the meditation, I want to dedicate the light of the candle today to the Tantra vision, to the supreme understanding of who we are. And may the light of nothingness shine brightly on everything, on the right, on the wrong, on the good, on the bad, on the high, on the low. So close your eyes. Take a few deep, conscious breaths. And bring your whole attention to the now, to what is here now. just this moment, loose and natural. Perhaps you can feel how right in this moment, wherever you are, any holding or any burden or anything that occupies you physically or mentally or emotionally can gently slide off your body-mind. It's more like an allowing rather than you doing it. And perhaps the best way to start this melting process is to bring your attention to your physical body. Maybe you feel in your body some habitual holding. Maybe there's some areas that are a little bit stiff or tense. And maybe other areas that already feel comfortable and at ease. Now with each out-breath, just feel a certain letting go. Perhaps at first a letting go of any attitude for or against your experience in the body. Just get a sense that this body is just a wonderful instrument for energies, for life. And in this moment, perhaps you find there is absolutely no effort in living. Life is simply here. The body is simply here, loose and natural. The breath is moving by itself, loose and natural. And perhaps you can already feel that as we are just sitting here, not looking for anything else than is. We are becoming more silent, or better said, we are becoming aware of a silence that was always here under the inner noise. And as we allow ourselves to be loose and natural, perhaps we notice that all the life expressions that happen through the body are happening by themselves, naturally. Effortless. And for some of us who are so used to make an effort, perhaps making no effort, perhaps just being loose and natural, can be a little bit of a scary bit for our sense of self, because we may not feel a sense of self unless we struggle. That's why Tilopa points from the very beginning to the void, to the nothingness, to that which is deeper than all objective experiences. And in that moment we perhaps notice that everything is just simply happening. Breath is happening, heartbeat is happening, digestion is happening. Thousands of different processes are happening in the body. And who we are is simply that which is aware. Just feel how every out-breath is a letting go deeper. And we naturally melt deeper than whatever arises, like we melt deeper than thoughts. And deeper than feelings. And deeper than body sensations. And deeper than the breath and the heartbeat, and then deeper than all events that happen through life in the body. As we melt deeper than all experiences, we are the void. And perhaps there is this strange sense that the void and everything that we call our person, our personality, is held, has space in the void. The Sufis call this the heart, the empty heart. The Buddhists call it the empty heart. Just to give it a name, we call it heart. And yet it is empty. And the strange thing is, as we all meditate together, and wherever you are, in whichever country, in the heart, We share one emptiness. Beyond country, beyond boundaries, beyond borders, beyond continents. And even though the mind cannot grasp that connection, in this very moment, all our hearts resonate in emptiness, as emptiness, without making any effort. In a moment, as the music gently fades away, we can rest. We can sit in silence for a while. I'm going to sit around 15 minutes, falling deeper and deeper, staying loose and natural. The void needs no reliance. Mahamudra rests on naught. Remaining loose and natural. arises from the unknown center, the impulse to breathe deeper, perhaps the impulse to move the body a little bit. The impulse to stretch. Person doing this, it's all arising from beyond the person. Lao Tzu would call it from the Tao. This is how Buddha created the Heart Sutra. For those of you who are familiar with the Heart Sutra, where he speaks about nothingness is form and form is nothingness. And from here you can take a deeper breath and stretch your body a little bit. Coming back from within into the body with all its sensations, until you find a good moment to open your eyes to a completely new moment here. Yes. Now, if there's anything that comes up for you, especially when you are with us here on the Facebook Live, feel free to comment or to ask any question or to share whatever you're moving through. And Steve can read your comment or ask your question. And while we wait, I would suggest don't wait. Just be curious. See if something arises. See if there's an impulse of the universe moving through you, or enjoy that you're still resting as nothingness. And while we are sitting in silence, while we are resting as nothingness, at the same time get a sense of this deep connection. The connection with people around you, the connection with people on the other side of the planet, the connection that happens through being loose and natural. That sense of freedom. It's already here. That's why Tilopa can say, without making an effort, but remaining loose and natural, one can break the yoke, thus gaining liberation. I would say, thus being liberated already. It's not a movement from there to here to there. Any reports? I'd like to complete this evening. I'd like to invite you for a little experiment that you can do wherever you are. If you're maybe in Europe and it's middle of the day, that you stop for a few seconds wherever you are and sense that everything that you perceive as people, as things, as buildings, as cars, as whatever life shows you, is held in the same space that we are held. And through that space we feel this incredible connection. And it's not a connection made by substance, made by form, made by ropes, made by something tangible. It's a connection through the field of presence. And you will find that when your attention goes there, the judging and discerning mind has a little break. The rational interpretation of whatever you experience, perhaps a subtle sense of belonging that many of us are so much missing. Here it is. We belong to the universe. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for being with us here around the globe. And next Friday we move deeper and deeper. And perhaps I can prepare you already for an online weekend course in October, where we move even deeper into Tantra as actually a course with over 2 days, 6 hours per day. and I will give you the dates later. So that is way in the future, and we don't know if we can be loose and natural until that manifests or doesn't manifest. We don't know. Stay loose and natural, and I'm looking forward to be with you next week, next Friday.